Hey, it's Katie. And the weirdest thing happened to me the other day. So I had just finished the third Game of Thrones book, and of course I needed the fourth book. So I go to Barnes & Noble to find A Feast for Crows. So I begin walking to the sci-fi fantasy section, and I see this guy kind of look at me and then begin to follow me over there. I get to the aisle and I find the Game of Thrones section, but of course, they only had the hard copies there, and I wanted paperback. So I'm like searching around the Game of Thrones books just to make sure I didn't miss it. So this guy who had been following me walked right next to me. He picks up the first Game of Thrones book. He's standing like shoulder to shoulder with me now. I don't say anything to him because I knew he kind of followed me and it was weird in the first place. So then after this huge long silence, he goes, so have you read this book, A Game of Thrones? I was holding the fourth book in my hands, and my first reaction was to be like, duh, I'm like holding it. But of course I was nice, and I was just like, yeah, I'm on the fourth book, I love it. You should really read it. And he's like, oh no, it's not for me, it's for my friend, but I'm just not sure if they're into this kind of dorky stuff. I know. I paused, and I was just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna be nice. So I was like, all right, cool, well, who knows? I don't know your friend. And then the next thing out of his mouth is, so I bet you read a lot of these dorky sci-fi books, huh? How are you supposed to respond to that? I was like, I don't know who you are. What are you talking about? So I kind of looked at him weird, and I hesitated for a second. I was like trying not to let my inner dragon out. I was keeping it cool, and I was just kind of like, well, I like Game of Thrones, so it's a good book. You or your friend should probably read it. So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna get out of here because this guy is so weird. And I figured by the way I was responding to him, he'd kind of like drop it. But then he asks me, well, why do you like this book? And by now I'm like, this guy's kind of crazy. I don't really want to be talking to him. So I was just trying to make my way out of the aisle. And I'm like, oh, I just like medieval fantasy stuff. Okay, see ya. And as I turn to walk away, he says, oh, I knew you were a huge nerd. Why didn't you just admit that you were a dork and you like this kind of stuff? I like froze in my tracks for a second, and I was like, 1, you just insulted my favorite book. 2, you just insulted me. 3, who are you? And the only thing I could say was, yep, I'm a nerd, and I walked away. What I should have done is turned around and said, I am the Khaleesi, mother of dragons, and I'm going to sick my little dragons on you. Dracarys, bitch. That probably would have really freaked him out, but he would have deserved it. Well, it gets even weirder. I was telling my friend Andre, Black Nerd Comedy, about this, and he said that it's apparently a thing now to insult someone when you're hitting on them. Is that for real? But that makes no sense to me. I just couldn't believe that could actually be a thing. Insulting women as like a pickup line or to be hitting on them? I guess the mentality is if you insult them, they'll be like, well, why? Why are you saying that? And that kind of reels them in, but that does not work for me. I will definitely not stand there and talk to you if you're insulting me or Game of Thrones. I can't believe that guys out there actually think that insulting women is how you pick them up. Have you guys heard of this before? Hitting on a woman by insulting her. Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.